Hello, my dearest INFJ entrepreneurs. Welcome back to another video. Or if you are listening to this one on the podcast, welcome back to the podcast. Today, we are talking about invisible obstacles and how the INFJ brain can really overcomplicate things that should really not be overcomplicated, and how that can hinder us from going after what we want and from really taking the action that is actually needed for us to get the results that we are looking for. So I'm not sure if I'm the only one, but we have a brain that is extremely prone to overcomplicating things and overthinking things. And how the way that manifests in our day-to-day lives is, especially if we are in business, if we're building a business, if we are growing a business, is throughout these invisible obstacles that we feel like we need to do or overcome or become or I'll give you some examples after, in order for us to then finally go after what we want and pursue them. And this is not a new concept. In fact, I talked about it before, but what I want you guys to focus on is creating a discernment whether or not what you are imagining as being an obstacle really is an obstacle, or is it an overcomplication. Now, I'm going to give you an example. I had a conversation with a musician, a girl who is a musician, and she was saying, hey, I really want to release music. But this guy from high school told me that first I need to create some kind of an origin story as a musician so I can release my music. And as she was saying it, I guess she already kind of felt like, oh, maybe I don't have to. Maybe I can think that I don't need it. I can just release my music. And obviously she was able to catch herself as she was doing it and talking it. But it's so common, like obviously you don't have to have an origin story before you start releasing music. You can just release the music, And I noticed that when we create these invisible obstacles, it's usually because we are afraid. Okay? So we have fear, we have self-doubt, we are uncertain if this is gonna work out or not, and we are operating like with that thought that, okay, I'm not sure, I'm so scared, and then we're operating with that thought pattern, and that bleeds into the way we show up and the way we do things. So if she thinks, I'm gonna give this example, if the musician girl thinks that, oh, I need to create this entire narrative of origin story before I can even release my own music, then she will spend so much time thinking about what should that be, instead of putting the music out there and having people listen to it, and then writing another music and then releasing that, and finally finding and building her own voice through release, through putting it out there and trying, is that she'll think, oh, I need to get this straight, I need to get that straight, right? So this is a trap, guys, and the more we think about it, the more we're like, oh my god, why am I doing this to myself? And I actually am so guilty of this, because I have a book right next to me on the table that I've written, and I caught myself like, I really need to put my mind to it. I'm thinking to myself, okay, I need to have this beautiful funnel for the book so I can release it. And even I'm like, oh my god, I'm not sure about the title, I'm not sure about this, oh, I need to rewrite the entire thing, I'm not sure, maybe I should submit again for a person to correct everything again. And even though it has been, it became this loop, like, no, you just have to put the book out there, just have to be out there, and you just have to talk about that you have a book, right? So everything, from releasing something, from taking action, we always have to be operating with a discernment of like, what is the easiest way to do this? Is this really necessary? Like, is this really an obstacle, or am I making shit up that doesn't need to happen? And the more we have case by case by case, and we have conversations every single month on the virtual hangout about this, the more we are able to debunk our own bullshits. We all have our stories that we want, that we shared. Oh my God, first, and this was something that, and this keeps coming up, guys, if you are building businesses. I think I talked about this before, but this whole idea of, oh, I have to have this amount of followers, I have to put things on social media, and then so I can get some clients. But the fact is, you don't. Like, is there any other way for you which is easier than you having to figure out social media and the algorithm, and you find yourself on Canva trying to figure out what designs you should do, and you're taking a course on how to post reels and TikToks, and education is fun. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there are times where we need to learn and need to invest and skill up. And there are times where you're like, okay, do I need this, or am I just procrastinating action? Am I just like holding myself back one more time, thinking that this invisible obstacle is the obstacle that really is an obstacle, but truly it's not. And the remedy and the antidote for this is to go and find the path of least resistance. The path of least resistance is the easiest and simplest way. And I always have to check myself. And if you are prone to doing this and you're listening to this one thinking, oh my God, I'm totally the same way. I make up things that needs to happen, but really they are just not important, really. It doesn't take away from what I'm giving or selling or doing for people. It doesn't. It's made up, right? The path of least resistance is like, what's the simplest way for me to do this right now? Like right now, instead of going down the rabbit hole of courses and strategies, and like, what's the easiest way for me to do it? And when you ask yourself that question over and over, you'll get a better answer. And I'm gonna give you an example. As I was growing this community, obviously you guys see these videos on YouTube, and thank you so much for watching and listening. I'm so grateful for you guys. But as I was growing the group, and I'm still growing it, it's an INFJ entrepreneur group, right? So the path of least resistance for me is to put the group in the INFJ community, right? Because there are INFJs are there, most likely, who are in business, right? Or not. But, I'm looking for the ones who are. But for me to put that video, or for me to put the group in the INFJ community is the path of least resistance. It's not me putting it into the MBTI community. It's not me putting it into self-help community. It's putting it into the INFJ community. So that's the easiest way. Or I can share it in the INFJ forums or the INFJ whatever Facebook page, right? I want people who are already there. They are hanging out where the target audience is, right? So if I want to reach more INFJ entrepreneurs, I need to go to the INFJ communities and talk about it, right? Or I need to collaborate with people who are already talking to INFJs, That's why we had our interviews with Vance. That's the most logical and easiest way for me to proceed, right? So again, here's what I want you guys to do. If you are listening to this one and thinking to yourself, okay, so how do I get into the path of least resistance? First, I would observe all my invisible obstacles. And a way you can do that is I want you to grab a piece of paper and pen and really put in 2 columns, okay? You're gonna do 2 columns. The first column, you're gonna ask yourself, what steps do I need to take in order for me to get to my goal? Okay? The second one, what needs to happen in order for me to pursue my goal? What steps I need to take and what needs to happen? When you go through the steps and what needs to happen, maybe you'll see some things that are the same, but I want you to imagine and go through those steps and really ask yourself, okay, is this a real obstacle? Is this really what has to happen? Or can I do it a different way? And I see it over and over, and this is going to be the last example I'm going to give you. I had a call yesterday with an interior designer, and she was saying how, she wants to create a course for interior designers. She's been doing it for 10 years, and she wants to sell it and make money. And she hasn't done the course yet. and she is unsure. She started her social media journey. She said, "Oh, I started posting about it, but I haven't done it yet. I'm still building my following." And I'm like, "Okay, do you know anyone who would already be interested?" Like, because she is an actively working interior designer. And she said, "Yeah, I would. Why don't you ask them first? Hey, are you interested?" Instead of thinking, "Oh, well, I need to build my social media. I need to do this. I need to build my website." Like, okay, but what do you need? You need buyers. You need clients, right? So what's the easiest way for you to do that? Well, I'm already working with all interior designers. I just need to talk to them and ask, "Hey, would you like to learn more about this?" I don't even know what exactly she's selling. But do you see how she's making it, do you see how she's making it more complicated than it should be? Like, do you see how, and I see it all the time again, like some, like, yeah, you have to have a certain amount of followers, you have to have this, you have to, and I want you guys to challenge that, because a lot of the times it is just, what we really want to think about is like, okay, what is it really? I really hope that that was helpful for you, and you guys will start challenging your invisible obstacles and finding your path of least resistance around what it is that you want to go for, and find the courage to go for it. Thank you so much for watching and listening, and join our community if you haven't already. I will put it in the description of this video. And don't forget, courage over fear, progress over perfection.